Okay. You know, the last thing I said about sticking with it, you know, when you meet somebody who leads a charmed life, it reminded me of my favorite manifesting story. And so yesterday, after the movie taping and all, the uploading was happening. I was talking to Greg, and I asked Greg to tell me his favorite manifesting story. And he told me like the story of his life. I mean, it was really funny, you know. But it was just a section of his life. Um, Probably just over a few years when he was around 20 or so, I guess. And he manifested the kitchen sink. I mean, the manifestations came hard and fast. You know, it's really funny. And later I was thinking about it, and I realized that his manifesting story was an example of what it's like when somebody is confused about what they want to do with their life. So they just manifest like jobs and people and girlfriends and whatever, you know. Boy. And and also a lot of those kinds of manifestations involve getting around not having money. You know, a person doesn't have money, so he manifests a free place to stay, or a job that's acceptable to him, where he makes decent money but also has fun and it's whatever. Just when somebody's knocking around, because those are the kinds of things they manifest. Now I got 2 lawnmowers running out here, so we'll just see what this sounds like at the later. But anyway, so I started sort of contrasting that with my favorite manifesting story. And here comes mine. So I think the number one thing in the story that I manifested was Franny. And it was at a party. And Franny came there. She was her ex-boyfriend's going away party. And so she somehow got me. I was saying, like, I was so happy. Yeah, it was not too long ago, a couple of months ago, I was saying to her, I'm so glad that I picked you at that party, And she said, no, I picked you. And that was when I realized that I didn't know she picked me, but she got me to, I brought her back to my place, and we were basically inseparable after that. And I had other girlfriends and a therapy practice and so on. Anyway, so I had my whole routine down in New York, and I used to spend my weekends various ways. And, Franny started dragging me places, and the first thing she said was like, that she hadn't been to Barnes and Noble in weeks. Like, she was a Barnes and Noble addict. And at the time, Barnes and Noble was only in New York. It was the only place they had anything. And they had 2 buildings there. So I went to Barnes and I said, okay, I'll go to Barnes and Noble with you, and I didn't think anything was going to happen there for me. And she went off doing her thing, you know, and I went to the business section and started going through the business books. And that day, that trip to Barnes and Noble was one of the most important things I ever manifested. And the way I manifested it was to have Franny drag me there kicking and screaming. So I bought like $200 worth of books. I was, you know, picking them out, you know, and it changed my life. Getting those books changed my life. They were things that are now, you know, books that people talk about that are out of print. You know, people still talk about them, like Theory Why. And so then, you know, a few weeks later, Franny said, she was like, and the way Franny gets things is she acts miserable. You know, she goes, I haven't been to my parents in 6 weeks. I want you to come up to my parents with me, you know. We don't have to always stay in this loft all weekend. And I wasn't running yet either. So I was just, you know, as you can probably imagine, kind of out of shape, you know. I really had never exercised very much in my life. That's a bad thing. I had bad habits. So Franny, although, see, I did exercise because in New York I took long walks. That was, I guess, I didn't realize I was exercising. I thought I was just getting around. But I felt like walking. I preferred walking to taking a cab. And I also rode my bike. And sometimes I would walk my bike. And, you know, bike riding is exercise. And I rode my bike all over the city. Sometimes I just rode it for fun, like at night. I would ride around Central Park, the whole circle. So we went up to her parents, and one of the first things her mother said to us is, it's a really nice day and you guys should go up on High Tour. You should show Bayard High Tour. And I didn't know what that was, but what it turned out was it was a cliff that looked out over the Hudson. And, you know, the way most people went up High Tour was they went around the backside, and there was a sort of slope that you could walk up. But what Franny decided to do was climb up the face without gear. So, and you know, I looked up at it, and it didn't look that dangerous. There were lots of, you know, ledges going up, and I thought, sure, I can get up there, you know. And when I got about halfway up, I realized how dangerous it was to be doing this. But I kept going, and you know, finally, you know, Franny, you know, was on top of High Tour, and she was yelling down to me, come on, you know, hurry up. And so I, you know, climbed up the last of it, and I was up on High Tour. And the minute I got up there, I realized I was thirsty. Oh boy, and we didn't bring any water. And we're on top of this mountain, right? So it wasn't that high a mountain, but it was still, we were up there, you know, for the duration. And so she said, well, maybe you can, you know, drink out of some of these rain pools. And so I found a rain pool that was, fairly acceptable, and I drank out of it, which was good, so that helped. But then, that was it. There was no more water up there. It hadn't rained that recently, I guess. And so we're up there looking at the view, and I said, boy, I sure would like to manifest some water. And she said, well, why don't you just manifest it raining? And it was a totally clear blue sky. It's like, okay, let's manifest rain, So I said, okay, well, we're manifesting rain. And we, at the time we did that kind of, I am now manifesting such and such, which does work, obviously, from this story. And so what I saw across the Hudson on the other side of the river was a cloud, which was, sort of in the vicinity of Sing Sing prison. And so I said, okay, all we have to do now is manifest that cloud coming across here and raining on us. And to shorten this, which might be an excruciatingly long manifesting story, we did. And we got soaked. And we took off all our clothes and we were naked up there, dancing around in the rain like hippies. And it made for a fun day, and that is, I don't know if it's my best manifesting story, but it's definitely my favorite manifesting story. Like I was talking about diet earlier, Dr. Berg and diet, and Dr. Berg was a major manifestation for me, because I'm doing a lot of things that he recommended that I never thought of. Like I have kefir at night, every night, for a before bed drink. And also, I eat absolutely no sugar. It's really too bad that they do things like they put sugar in kefir, because it's such a great thing. They've always got to ruin it. They got to ruin everything that's good. Everything that's good they got to destroy. Another thing I did was I completely eliminated sugar. Just eliminated it. Or did I already say that? It bears repeating. I eliminated sugar. And I started eating more steak. And I included other protein things. Like I never ate pork, and I still don't eat much pork. For one thing, I don't actually know any place to get good pork. Like I know I can buy free-range chicken, or what is it called, pasture-raised chicken, and so on. And I eat pasture-raised eggs, so I eat more eggs. I eat a lot more eggs than I used. I never could get into eggs, but I have also done a lot of pretty amazing things with diet before I ever found Berg. That was what enabled me to appreciate Berg, all the wonderful things I've done with diet. And when I found him, I realized that he knows his stuff. So, for example, this is another manifesting story. I messed my gums up royally when I was in my early 40s, I guess it was. And the way I did it was with a health food type ice cream. It was called Ice Beam. I don't think they make it anymore. But it was a tofu ice cream. So it had tofu, fruit, and sugar. That was poison to gums. And my gums started to recede. I was losing my gums. And I knew that meant I was losing bone, because gum is bone. So this product was screwing up my metabolism, and after a while I realized it wasn't good for me and I stopped eating it. We didn't order it anymore. Because I used to get it by the case from the health foods distributor. I hesitate to say there are a lot of highly poisonous health food products out there. Like just about every form of green tea is full of sugar and other bad things. Anyway, but I didn't know how to repair my gums, and I started reading up on it, and the supplement company sent out a bulletin about using CoQ10 for gums. And CoQ10 has an effect on gums. It strengthens them, it makes them harder. You know, so if you have soft, spongy gums, if your gums bleed, let's say, you want to take CoQ10, but if you're losing your bones, CoQ10 isn't going to help. And so I went on like this for a long time, and then I heard about progesterone, and so I got wild yam cream and rubbed it on, and that didn't do anything very much for me. My gums were still, going, they were fading. And so one day, I lived in the Florida Keys at the time, and I went to Key West for shopping, and I decided to go into Winn-Dixie and buy a few vegetables in Winn-Dixie. And so I'm looking around, and I see these potatoes that weren't potatoes, they were a red-skinned yam. And they had a Cuban name. They were called boniatos. A lot of Cubans in Key West. And so I looked at those, and I had an attraction for them, or they for me. I could feel, that there was something there. And I was very resistant to buying them, because I was thinking, well, what am I going to do with them? I'm going to probably boil them and eat them, and they're just potatoes, and they're not going to do anything for me. And so I had all these thoughts. I bought them anyway. And, as once I got them home, I actually figured out some nice ways to make them. And one way was to roast them, as strips. Like cut them about this thick. You see, just about a quarter of an inch thick, and cover them with oil, tamari, and I put thyme, pepper, and garlic, 3 things, and I roasted these things, and they were like out of this world. They were so good. So I ate it. I ate a bunch, and within like 15 or 20 minutes, I felt like I had a tank in my mouth, like a Sherman tank, destroying everything that was wrong with my mouth and rebuilding my gums. And I have been eating boniatos off and on for my gums ever since my gums grew back. You know, one thing that my dentist said about me and my gums, said that he was telling his hygienist, he said he's the only person I know whose gums actually grow instead of just slowly disappearing over time. And they go up and down, you know. But maybe I should be more rigorous about the boniatos. Anyway, oh, and as far as the potato he was talking about, Bert was talking about this potato that the people in the village eat. Well, there are actually a bunch of them. And one of them is what they call mountain potato, and it's a very long tuber. So it's that is like pure hyaluronic acid. It's just, you know, like you cut into this potato and you got slime. And that's what hyaluronic acid is, slime. That's what's in your knee, what do they call those things? I don't remember, but I'm sure you can think of it right now. But that's what, they're full of this stuff, that's slime, you know. And if you get an injection of hyaluronic acid, if you ever do that, you will find that that's what it is. You know, if the doctor like drips any on you and you know, brush your finger on it, you'll feel it slimy. So just remember, slime is good. Eat more slime, but not when it not on fish. Well, actually, yeah, fresh fish is slimy. That's right. The slime disappears as it gets older. So, a lot to learn about fish.